Hi guys, this is Katie Bunschoten, the president and founder of Certum Solutions, an executive QuickBooks solution provider practice. We're based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's my goal to provide videos like this on questions we get a lot so that you have more information as you decide what kind of QuickBooks you need, what help you need in your business, and so on. So today we're going to answer a pretty common question we get here. What are the differences between QuickBooks Online, the regular edition, and QuickBooks Online, the nonprofit edition? And a lot of them are subtle. The biggest difference you're going to see is actually in the naming. And I'm sure this will change, but the math is all the same and so forth. You're going to see lots of different names on your reports. Before we get any further, please make sure you like and subscribe. So you want to like this video so it tells me which ones you like to hear more about and which ones you don't really need to know. And then subscribe to this video, or subscribe to my channel rather, so that you find out when we're getting out more content, because we are working hard to push out content for a lot of the questions we get every day. And I love connecting with everyone over YouTube. It's turned into one of my favorite platforms. So please make sure you like and subscribe so we can get more content out just like this. That being said, all the business out of the way, let's go ahead and get down to brass tacks, shall we? So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen at this time. Here we are in QuickBooks. This is actually my QuickBooks Online demo and it is advanced, but it's for nonprofits. And you'll be able to see kind of the naming is different than your regular report naming. Here's your standard report screen. You have your statement of financial position, which is very similar to what you would know as a balance sheet with a regular organization or your regular business type. You'll just notice a lot of the names are different. So you have your statement of financial position here, and then the rest of it is very similar. And if you think about it, the statement of financial position is the nonprofit equivalent of a balance sheet. Both of them say the same thing, just in different ways. Am I right? On your statement of financial position, depending on how your accounting is run, you may see your restricted funds accounts and things like that here. If you are a nonprofit, this one doesn't have a whole lot of data in it at this time. And then we'll also go over to a statement of activity, which is commonly known in for-profit businesses as a profit and loss. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to all dates. Okay, and you can see your revenue is still called revenue, and it's got your giving funds and so on, depending on what kind of nonprofit you are. We're about to do some videos on HOAs, so with them it might be their dues and so forth. And then you have your expenditures, which are called expenditures here, and then it's going to have operating revenue and so on. But this is going to be called your statement of activity. Okay, and then with QuickBooks Online, if you do, you can change headers and things like that. You can go in here to customize your reports. And you can filter here by your dates, your accounting method, whether you're cash or accrual, your number format, your columns. You can change your columns, and here's a word to the wise: if you do change your columns pretty frequently, I suggest saving those as customized reports. Okay, and we'll go through how to do that in a different video. But it's really funny because if when you were in school and they were teaching your accounting and you did like vertical analysis and stuff, you can actually do simple vertical analysis here in your customizations in case you want to see that. Then you can also filter these reports. You can add headers and footers here if you want to say this is for a board meeting, so it's for internal use only or for board use only. You can put in that kind of thing, and there you go. That's the reporting piece. So I'm going to go back over to my report list. And again, I'm going to kind of harken to the different names on these reports. So a lot of it does kind of, mirror the for-profit accounting or the for-profit platform for QuickBooks Online, but then you're naming a lot of this is different because of the way you do your accounting. Okay, so right here they've selected to have it as pledges, but I believe we can change that in our settings. Here's your donor balances, which really would be a client balance detail, unbilled charges or time and so on. Some of these you may turn on or off in your preferences again. and so forth. Okay, so here we're going to scroll down here. You got your expenses, you have your employees, and and then the rest of this, there's a lot of this is very similar. Okay, like your accounting reports and stuff. So you can actually go over here to your account and settings. When you're setting up QuickBooks Online and you want to go to the nonprofit edition, is it incredibly important that you do this during the original setup? I believe it used to be, and I think it still is, where if you set it up as a regular company and then try to change it after it's open, I don't think it will let you. I think you have to do it when you're doing the opening screens, like welcome to Intuit or welcome to QuickBooks, pick your company and da-da-da-da-da. Make sure you choose nonprofit to get those names the way you want them. Some things you can change from your settings, some things you cannot. So you can change your tax form here. Here's your nonprofit. You know, what industry are you? For an HOA, I will pick on them because everybody hears about 501c3s, right? You always hear 501c3. And if you're an HOA, you're considered a social welfare organization. So that's actually 501c4. And if you're interested in the different kinds of nonprofits, or if you're thinking about opening a nonprofit, make sure you know what type you fall into. Don't just grab 501c3 because you think that's the one you should grab. And all that information is on the IRS website. So moving down here, you put in your content or your contact information and so forth. And here it says donor facing address, another, you know, little nod to the nonprofit usage. You've got your company ID and everything. And this one is actually an advanced version. So with QuickBooks Online Advanced, you have up to your 25 users, right? But if you're using Plus or Essentials or any of the other editions, then you're going to be a little bit more limited here, okay? Some nonprofits use classes and locations to slice and dice their funds and things like that. I think that's a great use of classes. Keep in mind that when you do use classes, you can use them for one thing. Don't go, well, I'm going to use it to do funds and I'm going to use it to do, you know, maybe events. Because if you have these things that where you want to tag multiple classes, you can't do that. You can use tags for that. Okay, tag groups. Ba-bam. So maybe use classes for the most important custom thing you need, and then use tag groups. And you can also use subclasses and stuff, but it kind of goes down a rabbit hole. Okay. Then here we go over to sales. Here's your preferences on sales. And you can kind of go through, you know, here's my preferred pledge terms and so forth. A lot of this mirrors the for-profit version again. So, you know, if you want to see something that maybe I miss in this video, again, make sure that you go over to the for-profit one afterwards, and I'll make it easy. I'll suggest it at the end of this one. You have late fees here. You have partial invoices from single estimates and so forth and so forth and so forth. You can actually also collect, if you're a simple nonprofit and you want to collect your pledges or donations over email, you can actually turn on Intuit Payments, turn on this online delivery and send your invoices out to your different donors and so on, and just have them complete everything online and make it really easy so you're not having to, you know, wrangle all those checks and stuff. So then over here we've gone and moved on to expenditures. You can track expenditures by donor. I don't see a ton of this for the nonprofits. That's usually more of a for-profit thing, but you know, different nonprofits work in different ways, so this may be something that's important to you. And then here's where we talked about QuickBooks payments. You know, just as a tip, if you reach out to us, we will help you get your QuickBooks payments set up. We will actually also coach you through using it and make sure you get off to a good start. So make sure that you reach out to us. With the time, this actually used to be T-Sheets, and now it is QuickBooks Time. And here you have some of your time settings. I expect this page to get bigger. Then we go over to Advanced. Here's your accounting method. This is important. Are you accrual or cash? It's very important that you have that set up correctly from the beginning so you're not messing up your tax forms. What tax form are you? Your Form 990. Here's your account numbers, your tips account, which, you know, again, kind of some things I don't see as being as relevant, but they're there if you need them. Classes and locations. Do you want to pre-fill forms? I always say yes, because it makes things a little bit easier. Just make your memos very general, and then, you know, add any unique identifiers to, well, that gets into a whole other tangent. I will talk all day. Here you can turn on projects. I don't believe you can turn projects back off once it's on. It used to be you can only turn it on and not off, but I may be wrong on that. And then here's your other preferences, and I always Well, I changed it to sign me out if it's been 3 hours, because I will walk away in the middle of working on something and I come back to it and I hate having to sign in again. Okay. But that being said, if you're in a heavily trafficked place, your office is not secure, you may want to leave that on the lower end, right? Definitely turn on your duplicate bills, duplicate journal numbers and things like that. They have it off in this one, but I always like to turn that on because nobody wants to enter something twice by accident. So we'll kind of go through the rest of the flow a little bit. If I miss anything, I will come back and edit it or add this onto this video. But just like QuickBooks Desktop, you have your little money map on the front. Kind of makes things easy. So if you go, well, I don't know what to do first, I always follow the arrows. It's like the yellow brick road. Follow your arrows. It will guide you to where you need to go. Okay. Then you have your payroll, tracking time, here's your products and services, which, to you, it may be, well, I don't sell, anything. I'm a nonprofit. I take donations. You'll still need to set those donations up as an item. Okay. And then down here, you have your accounting and reports. And then if you need expert help, you can talk to your accountant. If you're with Certum, I'll link you to us, and so forth. Okay. So here's your tasks. This is a newer feature in QuickBooks Online. I don't even think it was out when I did the original demo, but I will go back and check. Test task. And so you can actually assign this, I believe, to a user. Okay. And then I'm going to assign this to Ms. Tamala. Here's your due date, and I'm doing a test task. Okay. You can upload your documents, select documents. You can even make it recurring, like make sure that you're doing your bank rec every month, right? Set that up as a recurring task, because how many of us go, well, when's the last time I did my bank rec? Might have been a month or two. And so if you have this task set up, it will pop up and let you know. In fact, I will change it back to me. Save. Okay, and then it'll pop up in my task name, assigned to, my due date, and then once I'm done, mark it as complete, right? And it can be anything. It doesn't even have to be, it can be, hey, make sure you get coffee for the coffee maker. I mean, anything. So we'll go over to banking. With banking, I don't have any accounts set up, but this is where you would set up your bank feeds, is what we call them. You'll connect it to your bank, and then those bank feeds will come in, and then you'll be able to categorize them. If you have different apps, you also have your feed here. If you have rules, so like if it comes from Staples, always pick on Staples. If it comes from Staples, it's office supplies. You can say, if this comes from Staples, it is office supplies, put it to office supplies, and that's what it'll do. Okay, tags is like, I call it Classes Light. It's, again, not been around as long as Classes has, but if you are trying to run reports and has something in common and you're like, I cannot figure out how to achieve this report, tags are a cool way to create the reports. Where it kind of gets a little iffy to me is because I'm an old school accountant, so I go, well, with like a Classes report or something, if something's not in a bucket, it's going to tell me. But with tags, I don't believe it tells you. I think it just leaves it off the report. So it depends on what kind of report it is. If you're trying to do something super, super important and you're like, I need to make sure we allocate all of our funds for this, don't use tags, use Classes. But if you're like, hey, we're doing an event and I kind of want to know how much it costs me and I don't want, and tags might be a way to do that. Okay. Or other ways. I know in desktop you can actually search by memo, which is a funny little trick that I like to use sometimes, where I'll put like a code in the memo, which means nothing to anyone but my report. So you can use like a code in your memo. A lot of people don't know you can search by, or you can do reports by memo. I'm not 100% sure if you can do it in online though. So you also have your receipts, where you can bring in receipts. You can actually, one of my favorite features, you can forward it from your email. So you set up your own unique email address. When you get those receipts from your email, and you can forward them to your QuickBooks, and then you can process them there. How cool is that, right? Because then you have your source documentation right there in your software. Now here is the kicker. Okay, I learned this the hard way. Some receipts that come to your email will not feed through correctly. I'm trying to think the ones that give me trouble. It's either when the receipt is attached to the email or vice versa, where it's in the email. I cannot remember, but there's one where it will come in and it like doesn't read part of the receipt and I have to go back in and do it manually. So that's just something to keep in mind. Once you process your receipt, it's right here in your reviewed, okay? You have your sales button just like you do with the for-profit edition. They still call everything an invoice. Here's just get paid anywhere because I haven't set up payments for this because funny enough, they don't have a sandbox for payments. But then notice you have pledges and donors, okay? So you've got create invoice, which is kind of like what they consider a pledge, you know, but it still says invoice, but it's a pledge, okay? I think we can rename pledges to be something else, but I'm not 100% sure. So then you also have donors here in the next tab, and then you have your products and services, which is what we talked about. This says hours, labor, sales. Again, not very applicable to a nonprofit, depending on what you do. You know, maybe if you're working, you know, doing stuff with Habitat, maybe that would be different. For a lot of us, we would just call this donations, and we would just set up a service, okay, and so forth, and just build that out. I'm sorry, I might be rushing because I'm trying to move through this so you don't have to watch a 2-hour demo like my notorious manufacturing demo, but it's not. Sometimes I talk too much. So cash flow, this is a newer tab, okay? You've got your planner right here, and you can start using planning, which is funny because Fathom, which is an add-on for QuickBooks Online, actually does a lot of the KPI reporting. I believe it does some cash flow stuff. I'm not 100% sure, but some of that stuff you can also find in QuickBooks Online. Here's your expenses, here, and then now they call it expenditures. So here you go. You've got your vendors, which are vendors of vendors. They don't really change. And then you have expense claims, right? So if you have an employee, this is cool because it's new, and you can tell because it says it's new. If you have employees and they're incurring expenses that you need to reimburse for, or other people, volunteers maybe, then use the expenses tab, okay? And this is actually beta, looks like. So I knew it was new. So we've talked about workflows before. I've gone through some really simple ones. I'm not going to dive too far into this because, as you can tell from some of our earlier demos, QuickBooks Online is growing by leaps and bounds. It's everything I can do to keep up with it. So you won't see as many of these features in my older demos, so I need to kind of keep it brief so that we can kind of move through. They add to these workflow templates all the time. Okay, but here's your templates. You can also create a custom workflow and so forth. And then here's the ones that you've saved. Okay, projects, which we talked about, you can turn it, you can leave this off so it doesn't show up. You can also turn it on. Projects are really cool. The cool thing, one of the things to remember about projects, whether it's nonprofit or for-profit or whatever, is that in desktop, you use items to link things to your job costing reports. In QuickBooks Online, you use accounts. And we do sometimes have people that look at the project reporting and they go, that's not quite what I want. I really prefer the desktop look, and that's totally okay. Different clients have different personalities. We're all about finding the perfect fit for you. So you may look at this and say, I prefer my job cost reports in desktop, or hey, I use a third-party software because I'm in construction or this, that, and the other, and I want to use their reports. Totally okay. So then we go project reports here, and then here's your attachments and so forth, and you can connect all this to your project as like a hub. Okay, let's move on to payroll, which I don't think is turned on, so I can't really give you the full-on demo of payroll, but it's very easy to use. You have like a dashboard. It reminds you when to run payroll, and you usually have like a 24-hour lead time, so you can even do it the day before, depending on if that's turned on or not. And I know a lot of payroll companies have like a 2 to 3 to more lead time. So I think that's really cool. It's one of my favorite features. It's extremely user-friendly. It reminds you to run payroll. It's really cool to keep it in product. And then they also have integrated workers' comp, which is going to take me to another window. Why did I do that? And then it talks about workers' comp, which again isn't turned on. But you'll notice your contractor payments are within your payroll screen, and you can actually add contractors here, and you can invite them to complete their own profile, right? So I'm going to put KDB, because everybody calls me KDB because my last name is really hard to say. And then I'm going to change the email to our demo email, actually. khbdemo@gmail.com. If you ever want to send email down a hole and nobody look at it, you send it to that email address. And then it will actually email my demo account, which I use for this stuff, and it will say, hey, KDB, you're supposed to enter your information so that this nonprofit can pay you as a contractor, okay? It's really cool because you can have the W-9 there and everything. Whereas in the old days, and you can still do it this way, you add them as a vendor and then you go in and you add all the contractor stuff, and I think it flows back through here. So let's move on from there. Projects, payroll, time. So time, I'm not 100% on time because I used it when it was T-Sheets a while back, and I've not used it since it was QuickBooks Time, but it is on my list of to-dos, which if you're like me, or if I'm like, yeah, if you're like me, my list of to-dos is forever long. So we're working on this. But here we have to take time tracking for a spin. It'll run you through a demo if you want to use it. I will say, it was a really great tool. I love the T-Sheets product. I love the QuickBooks Time product. And it's probably our most requested extra feature. So then we move over to budgets, which for a nonprofit, those board meetings, and every, so many years you get a new board. I know these are critically important, right? And you can actually either import a budget or you can add budgets. So those of you that are like, how am I going to do my budget? You can 100% do budgets in QuickBooks Online. And if you are a nonprofit, this is going to be critical for you. Okay, so here we go. So what it does is it brings up all your chart of accounts. We have chart of account numbering on some of these. Looks like somebody's turned chart of account numbering on. Here's my test budget. And here's another tip. If you're going to use Fathom with QuickBooks, it can sync in up to one budget. So if you're like, I want a purple budget and I want a pink budget, or, kind of old school, you have like your master budget and your sales budget and this budget and that budget, and they all roll up, be careful with which one you bring into Fathom because it will only support one budget. Okay, so here you go with your different accounts here. I'm just going to hit next. All right, here. Oh, and one thing I didn't touch on, but you might have noticed it in the previous screen, is you can do budgets by classes too, which I think is super cool because we talked about different reporting, and with nonprofits, a lot of the times you have kind of strict reporting requirements. So that really comes in handy if you need like different kinds of class budgets. So we're going to save you. I'm going to save those. And there you go. You have multiple budgets and you can continue to do those multiple budgets. So we're going to kick over to reporting, which if you remember and you're still with me, this is where we started, right? So we've already walked through some of the general reports. And here's the thing, if you are a nonprofit and you're watching this video and you're like, I cannot get a demo of nonprofit and I need to check this one thing, hit me up, send me a message and say, hey, Katie, could I get access to your nonprofit demo QuickBooks? And I will sign you up for it for a week or so you can play around. And that way you can do whatever you want, just make sure it's public facing, because as you guys can see right now, I use this for my demos and you don't want your information on my demos. So, but if you just want to kick around a sandbox and see if you can blow it up, mi casa es su casa, come on in. So you do have management reports, you have multi-company reporting, okay? And then we're going to move over to taxes. So for the taxes here, this really refers to sales tax and 1099s. And a lot of us right now, it's spring, and hopefully your 1099s are done already. If you're not, I bet you're in a panic. But you can go ahead and do your 1099s there. You can set up your sales tax, which is now automatic in QuickBooks Online. It's really cool because it will sync in and kind of set up your sales tax based on your address and stuff. And I'm going to X out of here because I don't want to do that right now. You can do mileage, right? And then you have your chart of accounts. This is also available through your gear, which is the funniest thing. I was working with a yoga studio a while back, and they would call it the flower. And I thought that was so cool. So I like to call it a flower, but most people call it a gear. It's a gear up in the top right. And then this is where you kind of come through, your account and settings and stuff that we were talking about in the beginning. Okay. Now, here's another thing I want to tell you. QuickBooks Online Advanced, if you're a goofball like me and sometimes you make mistakes and want to roll back, or you do actually blow up your actual file, you really want QuickBooks Online Advanced. It's the only one with a live backup, and that's right here. And the second you get this baby set up, you want to turn that on, okay? So I always kick that because people hear QuickBooks Online Advanced and they think that's for really fancy companies. This is for bigger companies. I don't need any of those, advanced tools. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to be fancy. You just need to be a goofball like me, where I will go, well, dag nabbit, I cannot believe I did that. I really need to roll this back. And you can't do that with other editions. But you can do that with QuickBooks Online Advanced. If you haven't noticed by now, I'm using my Mac. So if you have a PC, this is all the same. It's just a different browser. So then here's my accountant. Here's the insurance, which is new because they're selling insurance now. We're going to kick on from that. You will not get the accountant tools unless you are an accountant and you have accountant access. But here's your accountant tools if you need them. And then I kind of think you've gotten the grand tour, but you know what I do with these videos is right after I finish them, I remember something that I didn't do. I've tried doing scripted videos before, but I really stink at them because I get that whole I'm looking into a teleprompter look and no one likes that. So if I forgot something on today's demo, let me know and I'll do another one. And that's also the inspiration for some of my shorter videos because I'll be like, oh, shoot, I didn't show them how to do this or I didn't show it very well. Let me go ahead and do another video. With that being said, let me see if I can toggle over into my regular one, just as a kind of a summation to what we just talked about. Our regular QuickBooks Online. So if you're a nonprofit, this is what you're trying to get away from, right? You don't want the regular organization nomenclature and naming and things like that. Just so you can see the difference here, and I'm going to focus on the names because that's really 99% of the difference. You'll notice here's back balance sheet, profit and loss. You've got your budgets are the same, but then down here you've got customers instead of, pledges or donors or what have you, and there you go. So if you still have questions after this video, let me know. I'm sorry for going on and on, but I get to talking and I go on and on and on. So tell me to shut up, but you can't over video. But I hope you enjoy the video. Let me know if I can help with anything else. Please, if you have questions about QuickBooks, join one of our CERTM Q&As. We have one-on-ones, and then we have also group Q&As where we'll go through questions. Or if we need to dive in deep to your processes, save you pain and heartache down the road, and kind of do a focused consulting session, we can do that. We offer services. We offer bookkeeping and onboarding and implementation in the works. So let us know if we can help. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.